I would like to start by thanking each and every one of you for what you are doing. Every single one of us will have wrestled with the decision we've taken today. The easy decision would have been to give up on the NHS, to seek employment overseas where your skills are in demand, to work in the increasingly busy private sector, to consider leaving it all behind and retiring, or leaving to do something else entirely different. And who could blame you? We are all working under incredible pressure. More than half of consultants report vacancies in their department. When we advertise for new consultants, we can't recruit. We have agencies and even governments from overseas actively recruiting us and our colleagues. They offer us better working conditions, a better life, and double or even triple our pay. This really can't go on. Not so long ago, doctors wanted to come to the UK to work here. But now, unless things change, we risk them leaving in their droves. So I say again, thank you. You have taken a stand, you have said enough is enough, and taken the really hard decision to withdraw your labour, to force government to listen. And when we say strike action is last resort, we really, really mean it's a last resort. We have tried everything to get the government to listen. For 15 years, we have asked them nicely. For 15 years, we've submitted detailed economics arguments to our broken, rigged pay review body. We've demonstrated that our pay was falling not only against inflation, but against all our comparator groups. For 15 years, we've pleaded with government to listen, but they've ignored us and inflicted pay cut after pay cut after pay cut. That is why we now find that our pay has fallen by 35% since 2008. A staggering figure, which means effectively you are working for 4 months of the year for free. We have written to every Secretary of State, of which there have been many. They've refused to listen, they've refused to meet with us, they've refused to engage. What about Steve Barclay? We've written repeatedly to him as well. He's met with consultants once in February. He has not met with us since we wrote to him at the end of our ballot, in which you overwhelmingly voted for industrial action. As Kevin mentioned, we've written to him again, saying we want to talk. He's refused, he's not replied to our letters. Before that, the last health secretary that met with consultants was Matt Hancock, and that was before the world had even heard of COVID. It is absolutely no coincidence that waiting lists have increased, that vacancy rates have soared, that the number of people planning to leave the NHS has skyrocketed, and that patient care has suffered as pay and funding in the NHS has been cut year after year after year. As Wes Streeting described this week, for ministers not to engage with us, particularly when we were having constructive talks with officials, is completely negligent. And then out of the blue, we are presented not only with the recommendations of our rigged pay review body, the DDRB, but are told by the Prime Minister that there will be no further talks. How disingenuous to suggest that talks had run their course when in fact no firm, credible offer had ever been made by ministers. So make no mistake, we are here because of the government and their action, or rather their deliberate inaction. They have demonstrated they don't care about you, and they don't care about the NHS. And they will try and discredit us, make us out to be greedy, point to our salaries and pit us against other workers. So I say this, don't believe the propaganda. Don't let them embarrass you into giving up on your beliefs and prevent you from standing up for what you believe in. There is no doubt that we are paid more than the UK average, but we need to look at the context at the level of our training and the responsibility we hold, literally making hundreds of decisions a day that really impact people's lives. Is a salary of £42 to £57 an hour excessive for that, especially when you don't get to the higher ranges until your mid-50s? And what worries me most of all is that doesn't tell the full story. Many of us are fortunate. We went to medical school at a time when there were no student fees. We were able to graduate with small levels of debt, attracting little in the way of interest, and soon paid off. We were valued members of firms. We were able to get onto the housing ladder at a time when houses were affordable. We had the option of receiving pensionable CEAs and the benefit of a final salary pension scheme. What do our future colleagues face? They graduate with debts of £100,000, accruing interest at the rate of RPI, even though the government tries to argue it's not a valid measure of inflation. They are treated as rota fodder, a cog in a very rusty wheel. They are paid a pittance, less than the associates that they supervise. They struggle to save for a house deposit. And all they have to look forward to is becoming a consultant, with our declining rates of pay, our worsening conditions that we endure day after day. For me, this concerns me the most. If we don't take a stand, who in their right mind would want to follow in our footsteps? In 2021, the GMC estimated that 10,000 doctors left the UK workforce, half of them going overseas. In their survey last year, they found that 80% were likely or very likely to make a career change, and 7,000 doctors asked for a certificate of good standing to leave the UK. These are terrifying statistics, and this, for me, is why we must act. That is why we are now making a stand. We know that our action will impact patients, and for this we are truly sorry. However, we have made every effort to minimize this and ensure our patients are safe. We have committed to ensuring emergency cover remains in place. Our hospitals are safe on Christmas Day. They will be safe during our action. We have given 6 weeks' notice of our action, thereby allowing maximum time to plan and ensure that those patients with urgent, time-sensitive conditions can be managed appropriately. Despite this, some patients will have their care disrupted, and that is tough for us all to take. But we must remember that is a key part of why we are taking action. Our patients are suffering every single day, facing record waiting lists, poor access to urgent and emergency care, and worsening outcomes. The fault for this lies squarely at government's doors. We must make them change their ways. The government have laid out their stall. They presented us with a final offer. They've said no more talks. They are sitting back, hoping that we will back down, hoping that they will break us. I say to the government, consultants stand together. We are united. We are stronger than ever. We cannot and will not fail. Our door is open. It is down to you to present us with a fair, credible offer that begins the process of restoring our pay and outline a process to fix pay now and for the future. Thank you.